was feeling epic. Whatever.
Hello everyone, hello to all the fans of the greatest show ever, The Vampire Diaries. Welcome to the brand new 4th episode of the podcast, I Was Feeling Epic. Today we will be talking about episode number 4, season 1, Family Ties. So there's one thing I wanted to mention that I missed in the last episode, and I can't believe I missed it because I also happen to be a big fan of the show The OC. I love that show, and in the last episode there was a great crossover that I could have, said and done, and I didn't, so I have to mention it right now. So in the last episode, Stefan and Damon have the talk, and Damon is telling Stefan, they are whatever I want them to be, meaning the people, because Stefan is giving him that speech that they are people, like they're not puppets, they don't exist for your amusement, for whatever you want to do, this and that. And Damon says they are whatever I want them to be, and that is iconic scene, or it reminds me of an iconic scene in the OC when Ryan goes to the end of the Cohen driveway to smoke, and Marissa comes out and she's waiting for Luke to pick her up, and she asks him, "Who are you?" And he says, "Whoever you want me to be." And it's a great crossover, I had to tell you. Okay, now we can go and deal with Vampire Diaries, but I just had to tell you this. So this time, I actually paid attention to the recap and what it tells us. And I have to say, the recap is pretty good. And it gives you a nice idea of who is who, what is going on. Like, I was trying to look at it from a point of view that I haven't seen the show and I'm watching this recap. I haven't seen the first 3 episodes. I'm watching the recap and then I'm watching this new episode. If I would be able to pick up on who is who and whatnot. And I think actually I would. So the recap and the scenes of recap are the following. First off, we see Stefan. For over a century, I have lived in secret. Right away, we see Elena. And then, we hear like, oh, this is the girl that I have to know, and then right away, we also see Damon with the line from Elena, "You didn't tell me you had a brother." So right away, in very short 3 scenes, we see like the 3 main characters. Then there is the photo of Catherine with the 1864 year on it, and the line, "She is a dead ringer for Catherine." And then right away we have Elena and Damon in the kitchen, and Elena asks Damon which one of you dated her first, meaning Catherine. So now we have like a background, like there is this Catherine girl from 1864, and there is a history of the brothers and her. Then there is the fight between Damon and Stefan, when Stefan tells Damon, "Catherine is dead and you hate me because you loved her." Then Stefan's speech to Damon that people are not puppets, and Damon telling him they are whoever I want them to be. Again, OC, I love it. Then we see Stefan giving Elena the necklace, and he tells her, "Wear it for me for good luck." Damon trying to compel Elena, she slaps him. Then Damon telling Stefan, "Vervain in the necklace. I have to say it's a long time since anyone could resist my compulsion." And then Damon, who is in Elena's bedroom, and he's like caressing her cheek, while Stefan says there is nothing human left in Damon, only a monster that must be stopped, which is a nice contrast as we talked about in the last episode. And I just feel like this is such a good recap. You get everything, all the important stuff is there, and you can basically go on and dive into the 4th episode. I mean, it is really good if you have all the background stuff, but they gave you like the gist of it, which is great. So I had a feeling that I want to talk about that a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this, and what kind of blueprint are we working with, and every time it comes out different, and I kind of like that. Also, I want to apologize. I am sick. I've been home for the last 5 days. I had a lot of time though to prepare this episode, so there's a lot of stuff to go through. I have 13 pages of notes this time. It's increasing with every episode, which I don't know if it's good or bad. So if I'm breathing a little bit too much, or if my voice is a little crackly sounding, it's not you, it's definitely me. But I don't have a lot of time this week to finish the podcast, and I don't want to have like a big gap, and I'm also very excited, so this is where we're at. So let's dive into the 4th episode of the Vampire Diaries, of this podcast and also of the show, which is called Family Ties. First scene, we have Elena, and she wakes up hearing some kind of a noise, and she's scared. She goes out to the hallway, and then she kind of like peeks over the like railing, and she sees a shadow down in the hallway. So she goes down to the kitchen. She tries like the switch for the light, and it's not working. And then she goes to the living room where the TV is on, and Elena's picture is on the TV screen, and it has like a big title, Found Dead. And this news is told by Logan Fell, who is like a new character that's been introduced this episode, and we'll be talking about him a little bit more later on. So Elena sees her picture on the TV, and she's like frightened, and behind her she hears "You know what's coming next" from Damon. We hear Damon's voice. Elena starts to run. She runs to the door, and then when she opens them, Damon is behind it. Then Elena like is kind of back inside, scrambling around, and then Damon appears behind her, and he bites into her neck. And right away we are in Stefan's room, and he wakes up, and we know it was a nightmare. Damon is sitting at Stefan's table, and he says, "Bad dream." And Damon tells Stefan that it was really easy to get into his head, and he's kind of hinting again that because Stefan drinks animal blood, he's not as strong as Damon. We don't know yet why Stefan doesn't drink human blood. Stefan gets up super quickly with like his vamp speed. He gets up out of the bed, and he grabs something on the table and throws it at Damon. And I think that what he grabs is a letter opener, because I love to write letters. I have like the quills and inks and the letter openers and like the seals and waxes and everything. So I think it's a letter opener. So he grabs that, throws it at Damon, and I think it lands in his chest or something. And Damon tells Stefan, don't worry, the culprit has been like caught, basically. And he says that it's been a mountain lion, like news, he says, "Deadly beast captured, all is well in Mystic Falls." And Damon says it again with like a little bit of like a smirk on his face, because it's ironic, because really the deadly beast is Damon, and nothing is definitely all right in Mystic Falls, but Stefan is asking him, why would you cover your tracks? And Damon says that he decided to stay a while, that he likes to spend time with Stefan and Elena, and that he can get Elena different ways than just to compel her, that he knows that Vervain is not going to let him get into her head, but maybe that's not what he wants. Like, he's like hinting that maybe like he just wants to, I don't know, seduce her or something. Then Damon continues that some girls just cannot resist his good looks, his charm and style, and his unflinching ability to listen to Taylor Swift, which, good. I mean, I agree. I love Taylor Swift. I just did the Spotify Wrapped yesterday, and my most listened album was the new album of Taylor Swift, The Life of a Showgirl, which like it came out like 2 months ago, maybe 3. So I mean, I get Damon. And then he kind of finishes his like little self-praising speech by throwing the letter open back at Stefan, and it like stabs Stefan into his belly. And then Damon looks at his shirt, which there's a hole because Stefan hit him with the letter opener before, and he says, "This is John Varvatos, dude. Dick, move." And I looked up the prices for a John Varvatos t-shirt, and it is actually really expensive. So the cheapest John Varvatos t-shirt I found was 225, but you can also get one for like 550. So it ranges between 225 to like 550 for that t-shirt. So I mean, I get it, but again, Damon can go and get like 10 of them and not even flinch because he's a vampire, you know. Damon walks away and Stefan pulls out the letter opener from his belly, and we see how like his scar closes right away. But I thought at first that that's the first time we see like their healing ability, but then I remembered that we already saw that Stefan broke his pinky and he like cracked it back in, and then Jeremy also sliced his hand and it also healed right away. So it wasn't actually the first time. And this scene was funny to me because at the end of this like exchange with Damon, Stefan has like this expression on his face when he's like, well, that was an awesome morning with my brother. Like he looks so like just burdened and just tired and just like just not good. After this initial scene, we see the writing The Vampire Diaries on the screen, and the introduction scene is behind us, and this episode is officially starting, and there is a lot to unpack in this episode. So in the next scene, Stefan is writing in his diary and he's watching the news, or he has the TV on while he's writing in the diary. And for the first time, we see the sheriff, Elizabeth Forbes, on the TV, where she confirms that it was a mountain lion. I love the sheriff. I'm gonna be talking about her a lot. She's one of my favorite characters. So Damon writes in his diary, the real animal is still out there waiting for me, challenging me to fight back, to stop him. But how do I stop a monster without becoming one myself? So there's a contrast where Sheriff Forbes says on TV, and it's actually Logan there with her, Logan Fell, that was on the news reporting in the nightmare about Elena being dead. So it's the same Logan, and he's talking to Sheriff Forbes, and the contrast is that the sheriff says like all is well, it was a mountain lion who was killing all these people and it's all good. But Stefan's like, actually no, the real monster is still out there. Then we have actually it's a cool transition because the camera like focuses on Stefan's TV, gets really close, and then it gets like it's moving away again, and all of a sudden it's a TV in Elena's house, which was really cool to me. And there was the same interview on the TV, and Jenna is like mumbling underneath her breath like scum ball, scum bucket, and Elena's like, who are you talking to? And she's like, him. And Elena's like, the news guy, also known as Logan Scamfell. Did your mom ever tell you why I moved away from Mystic Falls? Oh, no way. You and him? He's cute. He's not cute. There's nothing cute about him. And Jenna like shuts off the TV. And then Elena is cleaning something at the dinner table, and Jenna is asking her what's the stuff, like what is she working on. And she says that she promised Mrs. Lockwood, aka Tyler's mom, that she's gonna borrow her, I don't know if it's borrow or lend, I think borrow, but I'm not sure. It's gonna borrow her some stuff for their heritage display. In the next scene, the doorbell rings and Stefan is there. Elena invites him in, and they start to make out in her room. And then Stefan gets these veins underneath his eyes, and he kind of like pulls away. So Elena's like, oh, we should press pause, and this and that. And then she says, how do you look in a suit? And the way she says this line reminds me of Catherine. And if Catherine was already introduced in the series, I would think it was Catherine pretending to be Elena. Because the way she says it, the way she like tilts her head, and the face expression she has, and the tone of her voice, it's Catherine to me. And Stefan kind of like doesn't watch what he's saying, because he said, they still do that? And Elena's like, have you been before? And he says, no, the Salvatores don't get invited anymore. Then Elena explains to Stefan that the Heritage Project meant a lot of her mom, and her mom was involved in the Founders Council, and that it was her favorite party of the year. So then Stefan tells Elena, I would be honored to accompany you, Miss Gilbert. To which she replies, the pleasure is all mine, Mr. Salvatore. And I love that it's a hint to like the old manners that used to be very common, that the people used to speak this way. And like Elena takes it as like a funny thing, but Stefan was actually like, he grew up during this era and he talked like this, and everybody around him talked like this. So I really like these little like innuendos, these little hints that just make it such a better show. Like I don't know, I love it. In the next scene, we have Damon and Caroline, and this is a cute scene despite me hating how Damon treats Caroline. Okay, let's get this straight. I hate how he treats her. It's not good, but this scene is really cute. So let's look at that. So Damon is laying on the bed and he's reading a book. Caroline is trying on dresses for the founders party. She first trying on yellow dress. Damon says he doesn't like it. Wear the blue one. She doesn't want to wear them. I think he compels her to wear the blue one. And Damon tells her that he had to do a lot so that the party wouldn't get cancelled, and that it's really important for him that the party is still held. He tells Caroline to take him, and she says she can because like he's too old for her and her mom's gonna be there. But then Damon compels her, and this was interesting to me because usually in this show when the compelling happens, it's very close, like face to face and very close proximity of the vampire and the person being compelled. I don't think I've ever seen later in the show this compelling being the people being so far away from each other, because Damon's laying on the bed and Caroline is standing by the mirror and he compels her. So that was interesting. That was like, I've never noticed that before, because I really thought that for if you are a vampire and you want to compel someone, you really have to be like really close to them and look right into their eyes, like very close. So that was interesting. Then when Caroline is changing the dresses, she has like a big bite on her, or we can see a big bite on her back. Damon is reading the Twilight and he's asking Caroline what is so special about this Bella girl, and that Edward is like obsessed with her. And Caroline says, you have to read the first book first because otherwise it's not gonna make sense. And Damon says, I miss Anne Rice, she was on it. And Anne Rice is an author. She wrote The Interview with the Vampire, and they also made that movie, I believe in like 1994, with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. And Brad Pitt is so hot in that movie. I love it. Then we have a very insightful conversation between Caroline and Damon. Caroline says, how come you don't sparkle? Because I live in the real world where vampires burn in the sun. Yeah, but you go in the sun. I have a ring. It protects me. It's a long story. Will these bites turn me into a vampire? And she's looking on that bite mark on her back. And Damon says, it's more complicated than that. You have to feed on my blood, then die, then feed on a human. It's a whole ordeal. This book, by the way, has it all wrong. Meaning Twilight, which is a very funny joke. I like it. Then he pulls Caroline onto the bed, and Caroline is asking Damon, will you kill me? And he says in like the sweetest voice, mm-hmm. And it's just so Damon-like and so mean. I mean, come on. Next we have Tyler with his parents at the grill, and Vicky is their waitress, and it's super embarrassing. Then Caroline comes in with Bonnie, and Bonnie is mad because Caroline is going to the party with Damon. And so Bonnie's like, well, what about me? And Caroline's like totally unhinged. Well, go by yourself. And Bonnie's like, well, gee, thanks. Like, really? Because they were supposed to go together. After Tyler's parents leave, Tyler is like, like sneaking up to Vicky, and he's trying to like, make things good again. And she's mad at him, but only for a little bit, because then she asks him like, oh, who are you taking to the party? And he says Vicky Donovan. So then Jeremy very insightfully comments on that. You realize you had to ask him to ask you, which is true. And then Jeremy also tells Vicky that it's sad because she's like choosing the wrong guy, and it's just sad. Then again, we are back at the Salvatore mansion where Zach is asking Damon why is he back. Damon kind of like picks him up and strangles him a little bit against the wall, and Stefan walks in on this. So Damon is letting Zach go, and Stefan is asking him if he's okay. And then Zach is kind of like mad at Stefan. He's like, no, I'm not okay. Like, none of this is okay. And like, we have to do something. Stefan tells him there's nothing he can do because he would have to drink human blood so that he kind of has like a comparable strength as Damon, and he could like do something about him, but he cannot drink human blood. We don't know why, but that's what he tells Zach. And then Zach says, well, Vervain would make him weak, you know. And Stefan's like, yeah, what I had I gave to Elena. So then Zach takes him down to the basement, and he's showing him his stash of vervain, and he's growing it in one of the cells. The cells will become a big part of the story later on, and I think almost each one of our characters end up in the cell at some point. But anyways, right now Zach is using it to grow vervain. So Stefan is like really impressed by that. Tyler is showing up at Elena's house, and he's having like a fight again with Jeremy. I mean, every time they see each other, they fight. And Tyler is there to pick up the stuff that Elena's family is borrowing Carol Lockwood for the heritage display. Tyler then tells Jeremy, would it make a difference if I told you I actually like Vicky? And Jeremy says, not even if you meant it. And then he slams the door in front of Tyler's face, which is great. Bonnie and Elena are doing their nails, and Bonnie is saying, you seem happy-ish. And Elena says, I am-ish. And I love the happy-ish. It sounds so cute. Then Bonnie tells Elena an information that came from Caroline, and Damon told this to Caroline. So Damon told to Caroline because he knew that Caroline's going to tell Bonnie, and Bonnie's going to tell Elena. Like, this was totally on purpose. So Bonnie says to Elena that Catherine chose Damon, and then Stefan started to do crazy things, manipulated Catherine and lied until it worked, and Catherine then turned against Damon. To which Elena replies, that sounds like one person's side of the story, meaning Damon's. And Bonnie then says like that Stefan can be a manipulative liar, but Elena says no, he's not like that. And Bonnie is kind of like, well, how can you know? You don't know him that well, which is very valid. And I mean, we know that Stefan isn't a bad guy per se. I mean, maybe later on, let's not get into that, but I get Bonnie because I'm sure every one of you sometimes, like, your friend would date someone and you would just know that it's not good and you can see it, but she can't or he can't because they're in love and they're smitten and they don't want to see it. And unless that person chooses to see it, there is nothing you can do. You can tell them whatever, whenever, but if they are willing not to see it, they're not gonna. And from the position of a friend, seeing it and loving their friend and wanting the best for them, and then they see that they're with this like horrible person who lies and everything and cheats and whatnot, you know, that's not a good position to be in. But it doesn't necessarily do anything like with Stefan and Elena. I'm just saying, like, in general, that being in that position as a friend is hard. Then we are back at the Salvatore mansion where Stefan and Damon are getting ready for the party. Stefan is having a drink and Damon is laughing at him that, oh, I've driven you to drink. To which Stefan replies to him that I cannot get rid of you, so I'm just gonna, go on living my life and my eternal struggle. To which Damon is like, you're dead, dude, get over it. So Bonnie and Elena are getting ready for the party when Elena gets a phone call from Mrs. Lockwood, who says that there is one thing missing, and it's the pocket watch. And before, when Elena was polishing the stuff, Jeremy kind of came in and he was like, oh, you're giving it away, and how much is this pocket watch worth? And she was like, no, I'm not giving it away. I'm just going to lend it to them, this and that. So Mrs. Lockwood then calls that the pocket watch is not in there. And Elena saw it there. So she's like, oh, well, Jeremy must have took it. So she, goes to his room. And then she like dramatically takes his headphones off, kind of like slaps them off of him. And he's like, if I'm going to look on eBay, am I going to like find it there? And he tells her that, the pocket watch was supposed to be his because in their family, it's inherited from, one generation to another. And it's always given to the firstborn son. And his dad told him that, the pocket watch is going to be his. So that's why he took it. And he has it hidden behind a book. So he takes it out and, just shoves it in her hand. And he's like, yeah, my grandpa gave it to my dad and my dad was going to give it to me. And now what? And shoves it into Elena's hand. And then when Elena realizes why he took it, she looks really sad. And again, there is the topic of the loss of their parents. And then she just kind of remarks and he would give it to you. Kind of and then hanging in the silence is if he was alive, he would give it to you, which is super sad. And then Elena's like, well, Mom promised them to Mrs. Lockwood. What do you want me to do? And he just just take it and get out. So Jeremy is now sad and mad. And then we are back at Damon and Stefan's, and they're kind of teasing each other. And then Damon picks up the photo of Catherine, and he tells Stefan that when Stefan and Catherine danced together, it was hell to watching them dance. And Stefan says, well, my happiness was short-lived, as you well know. And Damon says, oh, well, here's to history repeating itself. And he picks up a drink. And then he says, I admire your efforts, Stefan, pouring yourself a drink, then spiking the bottle with vervain. I'm not some drunk sorority chick. You can't roofie me. And then he says, now I have to go to the party angry. Who knows what I will do? So yeah, Stefan tried to put vervain in the drink. That's why he poured himself a drink. But it didn't quite work on Damon. I guess he could smell it, or he expected it. Maybe he heard the conversation of Zach and Stefan. I'm not sure. In the next scene, we have the Lockwood Mansion. And I went to the Lockwood Mansion on my trip, and it was absolutely amazing and breathtaking. And it's everything you think that it's going to be and more. It looks exactly like in the series. And also you have access to the garden where the pond is, the stairs, just everything. It's beautiful. It was just unlucky for me because there was a big rainstorm the day before, and the garden was really soaked. It was really muddy, so they didn't really let us go right to the pond. We could just kind of go down the stairs and hang out there, but nevertheless, it was amazing. I loved it. And they told us on the tour that they shot a lot of the interior scenes in the house as well. The owners would always go to a hotel, and they shot a lot of it in. So I'm pretty sure that the party was shot inside of the actual house. Tyler is standing with his parents on the stairs, and they are saying hello to each and every one of the guests. And I don't know if it's just me, but I've never seen this ever to happen in any movie or show or anything. And it just felt super bizarre to me that they would be greeting everybody. I mean, I guess it's a nice thing to do. I just felt like that was a lot, and the line was super long too. Then Tyler sees Vicky in the line, and he kind of sneaks her in through the back because Zach then tells Stefan that I'm sorry it didn't work out with Damon and the vervain, and Stefan's I wasn't expecting it to work. And then he tells Zach that Damon's not gonna expect that Stefan will try so soon. And Zach gives Stefan a small glass bottle with a double shot of the vervain. Before the party, Elena goes to Jeremy's room, and without saying anything, she puts the pocket watch on the table and leaves. Caroline is coming to the party with Damon, and this was very, very funny to me. So Carol and Mayor Lockwood are not at the door anymore, but when Caroline and Damon appear, Carol just happens to be walking by to invite Damon in. If I was a vampire, I would be stuck at the curb or at the door until now. That was a very nice coincidence for Damon. Caroline sees her mom, the sheriff, and she goes to her, and that's the first time we officially meet one of my favorite characters, Sheriff Elizabeth Forbes, aka Liz. I love her character. I love the dynamics between Caroline and her, and then especially their relationship and the like evolvement of their relationship to the better. Caroline is kind of mad at her mom, like, oh, couldn't you like wear something nicer? Like, why are you in the one uniform? And she's like, well, I'm working, I really can't. Then Liz asks Caroline, who's that boy she tried to sneak in, to which she's like, oh, just some guy. And then she also asks her, where is her dad? And to which Caroline says, in Memphis with Steven. So we get like a hint that probably that's why that Caroline's parents got a divorce, because her dad has a boyfriend now. Then at the door we have Stefan and Elena, and again, by some like sheer miracle, Mayor Lockwood happens to be walking by to invite Stefan in. And I mean, really, like the coincidence is just too good that whenever there's a vampire that need to be invited in, someone like casually is like, oh, hey, come in. I mean, good for them. Or were they like, well, he couldn't be lurking because Elena doesn't know he's a vampire. So, yeah, suspicious, but good for them. If it was me, I would still be waiting for someone to invite me in. Then upstairs, Elena and Stefan are looking at the things that are at the, like, heritage display, and Elena discovers the original guest registry, where she finds Stefan and Damon's name, Stefan Salvatore and Damon Salvatore, and she's like all puzzled about it, and Stefan doesn't really know what to say. So all of a sudden Damon sneaks out of the shadows with a great story about the original Salvatore brothers, and he says it's a tragic story. Meanwhile, Logan is trying to talk to Angina, but she kind of like doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Caroline is compelled to lure Stefan away from Elena so that Damon can be alone with her. So this happens. They go dance. Stefan and Caroline leave, and Damon and Elena are alone. Damon apologizes to her that he was a jerk and that there is no apology for his behavior. Meanwhile, Stefan and Caroline are dancing, and Stefan is giving Caroline a glass of champagne, which is a very important moment for later on in this episode. Then Damon is circling back to the story of the original Salvatore brothers, and he says the Salvatore name was practically royalty in this town until the war. There was a battle here, and Elena jumps in. Yeah, the Battle of Willow Creek. Confederate soldiers fired on church with civilians inside. We learned about it in history class. And Damon says what the history books left out was the people that were killed. They weren't there by accident. They were believed to be Union sympathizers, so some of the founders on the Confederacy side back then wanted them rounded up and burned alive. Stefan and Damon had someone they loved very much in that church, and they went to rescue them, and they were shot, murdered in cold blood. And Elena asks, who was in the church that they wanted to save? A woman, I guess. Doesn't it always come down to the love of a woman? And I have to tell you, I know I mentioned this before, but I love the writing. I love the writing in this first season. It's just, some of the sentences are so poetic. I like, personally, this line, I think let's do like best line out of a whole episode, starting right now. And for this episode, I think it's a woman, I guess. Doesn't it always come down to the love of a woman? I love it. Okay, now I want to talk about something a little bit interesting, to me at least. I was sick this past week and I was rewatching True Blood, and there was an episode where William Compton goes to the church and he talks about the war and like when he lived in Bon Tom's and people are asking him questions, and he mentions year 1862 and the war. So I looked into it, and it's the war, it's the American Civil War that raged from 1861 to 1865. It all kind of started after Abraham Lincoln became president, and he was against slavery. So then the North and the South, the North wanted to abolish slavery, and the South wanted to keep it. So it was the Union, which was the North, and the Confederacy, which was the South, were fighting. But the year 1862 is very funny. So the war is the same. The war that Damon mentions in this dialogue with Elena is the same war. And Bill also talks about this war in True Blood. So if Bon Tom, where Bill lived, and Mystic Falls, where Stefan and Damon lived, were real, they would live on the same timeline and become vampires around the same time. Bill Compton became vampire around the year 1865, and Damon and Stefan in 1864. So, and Bill lived in Louisiana, and then Damon and Stefan lived in Virginia. So wouldn't it be amazing if there was like a cameo, either in the True Blood with Vampire Diaries people or the other way around? Like, I would love that. I don't know if it would even make sense if those shows were shot at the same time, but I kind of think that there would be a time where they would intersect. But that would be amazing. And when I was rewatching it and then he says 1862, I was like, wait a minute. You want to tell me that William Compton became a vampire like around the time they did? So that was awesome. I love it. But going back to this episode, outside on a bench, we have Vicky and Tyler, and Vicky is mad at Tyler because she's like, we're hiding all night, and you're afraid of how I'm gonna act and this and that. And Vicky tells him he's pathetic. And then Tyler kind of like grabs her hand and just like pulls her a little bit. And out of nowhere, we have Tyler's mom, Carol, and she's super nice to Vicky. She tells Vicky to forgive Tyler his rudeness and that he got it from his father. And Vicky is like, oh, it's okay, we were just saying goodnight, like I'm going away. And after Vicky goes away, Carol becomes a total savage, and she tells Tyler, that's what you get if you bring the trash to the party. Really, Carol? We see you, Carol. Bonnie is sitting at the table and she's looking at a candle that is not lit, and then she magically lights it with her mind. Damon and Elena are joining Stefan and Caroline, and Stefan is offering Damon a drink and he refuses. But Caroline keeps on drinking her champagne, which is very, very important. Again, we have Logan trying to talk to Aunt Jenna, and he's like trying to talk about her sister, and then he was like on the funeral and he's trying to ask her out, and Jenna is being awesome and she's like, her name was Monica, wasn't it? Which tells us that Logan actually cheated on Aunt Jenna, and nobody cheats on Aunt Jenna because she's great. Elena and Stefan are dancing, and Elena is asking about Catherine, and Stefan doesn't want to talk about it. Elena tells him that, I don't really know that much about you, and I would like to know more about you. And then Stefan gets mad, and he's like, what was Demon telling you? He likes to play these games and create chaos. And Elena says, this is not about Damon, this is about me trying to get to know you. And I mean, really, I get it, because it's the thing that Damon told to Caroline told to Bonnie, and Bonnie told Elena that Stefan is manipulative. So I get why Elena is asking about Catherine, I guess, but if you want to learn about someone, why are you asking about their exes? Ask them about their favorite color or band or, I don't know, movie or book they like to read. So, okay. They start to fight, and Stefan is telling her, see, Damon is trying to put a wedge between us, and Elena says, well, I guess it's working. Damon listens to this whole conversation. He's very happy about himself and his little schemes. Carol then comes to Elena because of the pocket watch that are not on the display, and Elena says she can't find it. Caroline goes to Damon, and he's like dragging her with him upstairs. Then he puts her to the by the door. He's like, watch out so that nobody comes in. And he takes this wooden box, like an antique wooden box that's on the display. He opens it up. Then he pulls like a piece of wood inside the box, and he pulls out a necklace. Caroline's like freaking out. She's like, you're not supposed to touch anything, and it's theft. And he's like, it's not theft if it's yours. I put it in there. And then she asks him, what is it? And he says it's a very important crystal. Logan is coming for strike 3, and he again tries to talk to Aunt Jenna. And he's successful this time. Because, yeah, we are just weak women and we love jerks. It's sad. So Aunt Jenna agrees to have lunch with him. Then in another scene, Carol Lockwood is yelling at this like young waiter because there is a room and the candles are unlit. So she's like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't the candles lit? And then they both leave. I guess he's getting matches and Carol walks away. And Bonnie sees this and she mumbles underneath her breath, bitch, like to Carol, which I love. And then she lights up the whole room with her mind. So we can see that Bonnie, in fact, has magical powers. Then Elena finds Caroline in the bathroom and she's like asking her all these questions. And then she kind of pulls down her sweater and she sees these bite marks on her back. And Caroline runs out of the bathroom. And because she's compelled not to like show anyone and for anyone not to know, so she knows like it's wrong that Elena saw it, so she runs away. Elena then like stumbles onto Damon and she tells him, there's something seriously wrong with you. Stay away from Caroline or I will go straight to her mother, the sheriff. Which again is a very interesting and funny moment because what would Liz do with Damon? Like, but Elena doesn't know that, but it's just funny. Elena then runs towards Stefan and she apologizes to him. She's telling him about the bite marks and that Caroline is all like messed up in the head and that they should lock Damon up. And Stefan's telling her, I'm handling it. And then Stefan also tells her there are things that he cannot tell her and he might not be ever able to tell her, but that he just needs her to trust him. Elena tells him, trust is earned, I can't magically just hand it over. Then Stefan sees how Damon is kind of like dragging Caroline across the lawn and Stefan leaves Elena. Meanwhile, there is a little scene where Vicky Donovan finally goes to Jeremy. She rings the doorbell and they kiss and we are happy for Jer. Damon is pissed. Caroline is super scared and she's crying and she's frightened and she's apologizing to Damon because she knows nobody was supposed to see the bite marks. Damon says he forgives her. Then he stands behind her and he wants to kill her. He like bites her. But she has vervain in her blood because Stefan put the double shot of vervain that Zach gave him into Caroline's drink. So Damon goes down on the floor, he's vervained, and Stefan tells him, I knew I couldn't spike your drink, so I spiked hers, which is super clever from Stefan. After that, Caroline is waking up on the grass alone. She doesn't know what happened. I think Stefan compelled all those memories away. And she finds the crystal that Damon found previously in the box. Elena finds Caroline and Caroline starts crying. Then Stefan throws Damon into the cell with the vervain. And then we can hear Stefan say, I did what I had to do to protect Elena, to protect everyone. Yes, Damon. The headline reads, Deadly Beast Captured. All is well in Mystic Falls. And very last scene of this episode, we are back at the Lockwood Mansion and we have 4 people there. Sheriff Liz Forbes, Carol Lockwood, Mayor Lockwood, which is Tyler's dad, and Logan Fell. And they are talking about the pocket watch. And Carol says, she says that she can't find it anywhere, that it's somewhere packed up with her parents' stuff, meaning Elena says that. And Logan says, I can get it. Liz then says, good, we're gonna need it. Mayor Lockwood asks Liz, are you sure? To which she says, 5 bodies all drained of blood? I'm certain. And Logan then says the last line of this episode, they have come back. They are back. Yes. And this is ending of the 4th episode of the Vampire Diaries. I just have a couple things to go over at the end here. When I was rewatching this episode and writing down things I wanted to talk about, I realized that I quite never understood that if Stefan didn't spike Caroline's drink, that Damon would have killed her. Because he says, I'm so done with you, and he just has that like crazy look in his eyes, and I think that he would either snap her neck or he would drain her of her blood and kill her. I think she was done. So very good for Stefan for saving Caroline, because she's one of my favorite characters. I also love how in the beginning of this episode we have the same phrase, deadly beast captured, and we hear it from Damon's mouth, and then at the end of this episode we hear it from Stefan's mouth. And in the beginning Damon talks about he covered his tracks and it's a mountain lion, deadly beast captured. At the end, Stefan actually did capture the deadly beast, meaning Damon, and he's in the cell. And it kind of shows us how quickly things can turn between vampires, situations can turn around. I also liked that we kind of learn a lot of new things in this episode, especially from Damon, who mentions that he doesn't burn in the sun because his ring protects him. And then also he mentions the whole process of how one becomes a vampire, which I feel like for a show it's pretty early on, to precisely describe how you become a vampire. But it's good for us. I like that. And then we also learn at the end of this episode that the main people of this town, which is the mayor, the sheriff, the news guy, they all know about existence of vampires, and they are preparing something to do against vampires. So that is, I think, a big piece of information. And again, to Damon and the whole vampire process and the ring, I also liked the way it was conveyed, because it was very very natural, I think, because it was like this nice scene with Caroline. I mean, yes, he's being a jerk to her, but he's like reading the book and kind of hating on Twilight, and then explaining how it is in this show or in their lives. So I thought that was a very clever way to kind of sneak that in. That would be all from me for today. Still a little sick, so I'm gonna get home, get some tea, and edit this for you guys and upload it so that you can listen to the new episode. Thank you everyone for listening. I just want to mention again the Instagram account that's connected to this podcast. It's the Vampire Diaries, so TVD forever. I was feeling epic is the Instagram. I've had it for about 4 or 5 years, and I've been uploading like some edits and funny scenes that I like, and just moments from the show that speak to me. So there is quite a bit of content for you to go through. I'm also now trying to advertise the podcast on there a little bit. I've got some new followers, so that's nice. And that's all from me. I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope that you like this episode. If there's anything that you want to mention, something more that you want to hear about or less, please let me know either in the comments, or you can also message me on the Instagram. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Am I wearing my I blew up the council t-shirt? Why does everybody keep asking me that?